Welcome to Healthy Heart. This is Dr. Isaac Opoku-Asare, Medical Director of Advanced Cardiovascular Institute and a White Oak Cardiovascular Center. Thank you for joining me, and I believe that our program is going to help you in a greater way to be able to lead a life that will help you not only to be alive, but to enjoy life. Because as the good book says, out of the fullness of the heart, the mouth speaks. So we want you to have a healthy heart physically, so that you should be able to enjoy life, be able to communicate, and be able to walk to everywhere you want to go. We're going to change things a little bit this year. Instead of just talking about the heart, we want you to know that that is one of the misconceptions that have gone on. Our goal is for you to have a comprehensive cardiovascular that is a combination of the heart and the blood vessels. And that is my specialty. In terms of your care, our goal is not just the heart being healthy, but the blood vessels should also be free from blockages, so that the heart that is pumping can get the blood to wherever it needs to go to. And today we're going to be talking about very, very important topic here, specifically a healthy diet. And we'll dwell on two major components of it that has been a source of misconception. Because in an attempt to solve one of the problems, America has ended up with even greater problems. And it's not only in America. All over the world now, in an attempt to fix or in an attempt to bring up a healthy cardiovascular diet, we ended up fixing one problem and creating another problem, which is uncommon to man, because in our attempt to fix things, we create sometimes more problems than fixing things. But I hope that at the end of the day, you will be able to understand these principles very well, and then that will help you to eat appropriately and enjoy ideal cardiovascular health. So as we do all the time, we say that the 7 pillars of ideal cardiovascular health are, what are they? Number one, we said that it is important to exercise. Exercise. And when we say exercise, I'm not talking about going to the gym. Going to the gym is okay. But God has made things so easy for all of us. Number one is walking. Whether it is cold out there or not, you can decide to walk. And the walking that I'm talking about is not the walking that we do because you are working. The walking that we're talking about here is walking during your leisure time. And you need to walk 150 minutes per week. And that is the idea behind the fact that you should walk you should walk 30 minutes. Let me put it this way: 30 minutes 5 times in a week. Or if that is something that is not compatible with your schedule, you can decide to walk the whole 150 minutes over a weekend and you're done. Or you can decide to break it into 3, where you decide to walk 50 minutes or 1 hour 3 times in a week, and then you get it. The good thing is that walking doesn't cost a lot of money, right? And God made it, he set such a low bar so that everybody should be able to be active one way or the other. And it doesn't need to be outside or anywhere. Wherever you walk, you walk. But the most important thing is that it should be a time that you are not doing any other thing but walking. So leisure time walking is important. I recently had a discussion with somebody, and the person was telling me, I walk a lot. I said, no, that doesn't count. It does not count. The fact that you don't have sedentary life does not mean that you are exercising. And that is what I want to lay emphasis on that. If you're somebody that can swim actively or somebody that can run or jog, then you only need 75 minutes. 75 minutes. I want to lay emphasis on that. 75 minutes in a week. How low can it get? This is so simple. So if you are somebody that jogs or run, even if you don't have time, you can pick one day over your weekend to be able to do that, and you will satisfy your physical activity that is required for ideal cardiovascular health. And the more you do, the better it gets. So we're going to come back to that, but that is not our focus for today. But we want to quickly, always at the beginning of this program, go through the 7 pillars of ideal cardiovascular health, so that you will be able to put these things into practice. Every year, ask yourself, what is my number? That's why I ask people, what is your number? What do we mean by your number? Because the 7 pillars, are you achieving them, or you are what? Your numbers are turning negative. So we'll talk about physical activity, number 1. Then we talked about appropriate dietary patterns, which we're going to lay emphasis on today. And it's very important because what you get in this ultimately sometimes decides what is going to happen to you. So that is number 2. And then we talk about keeping your blood sugar. Before I go to that, let me talk about weight. Our appropriate weight management, that is number 3. Let me tell you, if you can do these 3 things, appropriate physical activity, and appropriate dietary activity, and keeping your weight, appropriate weight management, these 3 things alone can ensure that all the other things are in place. Why am I saying that? Because the other pillars of ideal cardiovascular health includes getting your blood sugar less than 100. That is a fasting blood sugar. And how do you get it under 100? What? Appropriate physical activity, appropriate dietary activities, and that is going to help you. And that is why that is important. Let us also talk about the other thing. He's talking about blood pressure. In talking about blood pressure, he says we want your blood pressure ideally should be less than 120/80. We used to say 130/80, no longer so. 130/80. I've seen a lot of young people recently and with their blood pressure that are elevated. And some of them are satisfied with the fact that the blood pressure is around 135. That 135 blood pressure is for the 80-year-old. It's not for the young person. So if you are young and your blood pressure is 130, that is not normal. That blood pressure needs to come down and it needs to be controlled. So that is important. Let us talk about cholesterol, the big one, right? The cholesterol is also important. It is important because most of the plaques that is in our body are made up of cholesterol. So it is important that you get your total cholesterol under 200. But that is oversimplification. What we're going to do, we've done these ones. You can go to our YouTube and other social media websites where you'll be able to find our discussion on cholesterol. If you come to us in Advanced Cardiovascular, some of these things will be made available to you over there too. But the bottom line is this: you don't need to necessarily come. Zoe Light Radio have got all these videos that are available for you to be able to watch them about your cholesterol. So the most important thing about your cholesterol is getting the bad cholesterol controlled and getting the good cholesterol up. That is, the good cholesterol is the HDL, the bad cholesterol is the LDL. And then the last one is smoking. So smoking is something that a lot of people do not do. When we say that means primary smoking. But in the era of COVID, the problem that we have is what we call secondary smoking, where people, because they are all staying in-house, they are smoking and the other people cannot tell them to go out. Please, if somebody is smoking and you are standing in the presence of that person, you are smoking technically. And single-hand smoking is very bad, especially exposing our children to this unnecessary risk in their lives. So it is very, very important that every year you have to ask yourself, what is my number? What is your number? Have you checked your blood pressure? Have you checked your blood sugar? Have you checked all those things? At least once in every year, you need these blood work to be done to see where your numbers are. Is it going up or is it going down? And make sure, I'm going to go there, we'll go for a short commercial break and come back. But the most important thing that you need to remember is your number. And what are the things that we are talking about? Physical activity, appropriate dietary patterns, controlling your weight, your blood sugar less than 100 in terms of fasting, and your cholesterol less than 200 with your good cholesterol ideally more than 50, bad cholesterol less than 100, and avoidance of smoking and appropriate weight control. What is your number? My goal and my prayer for you is that wherever you are now, by the end of the year, December 31st, make it part of your goal that your number will increase in terms of ideal cardiovascular health, which is not only about the heart, but it's the heart and the blood vessels. that goes to the heart and the rest of the body. You realize very quickly that a lot of people have got very good heart. It's pumping well. The blood is getting nowhere because the blood vessels are blocked. And that is why we'll talk a lot about arteriosclerosis, which is blockages in the blood vessels. We'll come back after a few minutes and then continue with our topic for today, healthy diet.
This episode is sponsored by Advanced Cardiovascular Institute. ACI treats a myriad of cardiovascular issues using patient-centered, minimally invasive procedures. Dial 301-755-6500 or scan the QR code to schedule your appointment today.
Welcome back to Healthy Heart and Legs. That's what we're talking about now. Because we're talking about cardiovascular health. And today we're talking about healthy diet. And our goal, our focus is to talk about the revolution that has occurred in terms of healthy cardiovascular diet over the last 50 to 70 years. So in the early 50s, it was found that one of the major causes, if not the major cause, of heart attacks or inability to get good amount of circulation in your legs and the rest of the body, it is due primarily to the fact that there are blockages in the blood vessels that goes to the various parts of the body. And that is what leads to peripheral vascular disease, which is my specialty. That is the rationale behind less blood supply to the brain, leading to strokes, and less blood supply to the heart, leading to heart attacks. So when we looked at these blood vessels, it showed that the blood vessels are full of cholesterol. And because they were full of cholesterol, it made sense that at the end of the day, our goal is to cut down the amount of cholesterol that we eat. But what people do not understand is that there are two processes of getting cholesterol in your body. One is what we call the exogenous phase and the endogenous phase, or pathways. And I would like to use the picture from New England Journal that came last month to demonstrate this principle that I'm talking about. So when you eat the food, if you are looking at the screen now, on the left side of the screen, you're going to see that it talks about the stomach and the duodenum. The stomach and the duodenum here is where the process begins. You eat food, and the food that contains the fat, the bile acids over there breaks it down within the stomach. And then the fat in it is absorbed. And once the fat in it is absorbed, it goes through the lymphatic system and ultimately ends up in the blood vessel. But let's take it one after the other. So a lot of people are taking medication, what we call Zedia. What does Zedia do? The work of Zedia, it does two things. Essentially, once you eat food that contains cholesterol, and you realize on this diagram, we'll go back to the diagram for you to see that the Zedia, which is ezetimibe, it blocks the absorption of the cholesterol so that ultimately it doesn't get into your blood system. And that is why it is a medication that is added to other medications to control your cholesterol. In the olden days, we used to use medications. One of them is called Walcor, which is a bile acid sequestrant, and it blocks the absorption of the cholesterol into your body. So the reason why we are saying that you must cut down your fat, we are not saying that you should eat fat-free. Fat-free food for me, is tasteless. And if you're going to eat food, eat something that tastes good. So we are not talking about not eating at all. But the goal is that, first of all, if you cut down the amount of fat that you eat, then less of that amount is going to be absorbed into your blood vessels. So you see that within the small blood vessels, over there, that is what they call iliac enterocytes, where ultimately the fat is absorbed and the fat gets into your blood vessel. So if you look at the right side, you're going to see that the same fat has now found its way into the blood vessel, and it's called chylomicrons that are ultimately broken down, and they go through many processes. I don't want to belabor you with that, but this is where people end up getting heart attacks from the food that contains cholesterol. In that, the cholesterol will find its way. If you look at the pictures with me over here, you realize that we start with the chylomicron. The chylomicron is broken down, and it ultimately ends up in the bad cholesterol. The bad cholesterol is what is called LDL. And what do you see the LDL doing? It goes into the blood vessel, the wall of your blood vessel. And when it goes into the wall of your blood vessel, this is where it builds up gradually and blocks the blood vessel. And when it blocks the blood vessel, now blood cannot flow. So the reason or the rationale for cutting down the fat, especially the bad fat, which we've talked about. What is the bad fat? Is the saturated saturated fat. What are they? The animal fat. Number one, I'm not telling you not to eat goat or meat or lamb. I do virtually every evening together with either chicken or fish. I do them. I bake them nicely and I enjoy them. So I'm not telling you to stay away from that. I'm not asking you to be a vegetarian. That is too difficult for me. I've tried it. It didn't work. So I'm not going to even try it again. Because you can achieve ideal cardiovascular health by eating the appropriate amounts of meat, even in your food. But this is why you need to cut it down, because the fat that you eat, that fat ultimately ends up in the blood vessel, and that fat contains bad cholesterol, which is the LDL. And the LDL will go in, and then it will cause what we call foam cells. And the danger is that one day, the reason why people get heart attack is the fact that they said, I have crushing chest pain. What happened? The blood vessels, there was a rupture in the fat buildup over there, leading to the heart attack. So it is a good idea to cut down the bad fat that you should stay away from as much as possible, which is the animal fat, and then palm oil, and then coconut oil. All these are the things that you should move away from. And I will encourage you to go to things like avocado. Oh boy, I love it. Avocado is a very, very good one. Another form of fat that you should try to eat is extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil is fantastic. So this is why you must stay away from the bad fat. But in an attempt to stay away from fat, I went to the shop one day and I bought honey. And on the honey, they've written no cholesterol, right? And you see everywhere, they've written no cholesterol, no cholesterol, no cholesterol, no cholesterol. And because they've written no cholesterol, a lot of people are happy about the fact that there is no cholesterol. And a lot of people are running to sugar. We are eating more and more sugars. So far as that thing doesn't contain cholesterol, people think it's good. But let me tell you, in my opinion, it is more dangerous to eat sugar than to eat fats. I repeat it, and I'm going to tell you why. And we're going to list that for you, because this is one of the major problems that we have now. The reason why obesity is totally is totally not under control, or is totally uncontrolled, is because of the shift from fat to sugars. And what people do not understand is that apart from the exogenous, I'm talking about you eating fat, if you eat sugar, the sugar will ultimately end up being produced or turned into fat. So let's look at this picture. Once again from New England Journal. And we've taken this picture, want to lay emphasis on that. Look at it. How do you, if you decide today that I'm not going to eat any fat from today onwards till God calls you to heaven, and you decide to eat only sugar, I'm telling you, you will end up with the same amount of cholesterol in your system. And you are going to have the same problem as somebody that is eating fat. Because the sugar that you eat, this is the picture. How do you produce cholesterol in your body? The cholesterol in your body is produced by, look at, we're going to go back to the picture of the liver. The liver is a place that produces your cholesterol. So let's look at it. How does the process start? The process starts with glucose. It doesn't start with fat. So this whole idea that because I'm not eating fat, I cannot what? I cannot have fat in my body. It is not true. I'm repeating this. This is one of the greatest misconceptions that we have about dieting. He said, doctor, I've cut down all my diet, yet the person is drinking soda every day. You're having the same amount. Why? So let's look at the diagram here. If you look at it, it starts from what? Glucose. So when you eat any sugar in your body, even if you don't eat cholesterol, it starts with the glucose. The glucose go to pyruvate. The pyruvate end up going to acetyl CoA, and then we have the HM-CoA. This is a critical step, and that is why we give people statins. And if you are not on the statins, or if you are just eating the sugar, then ultimately it ends up in what? Cholesterol. So listen to this. You start with sugar and you end up with cholesterol. So the bottom line is that though you are staying away from cholesterol because you are eating sugar, it is the same thing that you are having. But let me tell you the problem with sugars here, which is something that people don't understand. One, as we have shown you, even if you don't eat fat in your body and you're eating sugar, your sugar will be turned into what? Cholesterol by your body. Your body does not need fat to create cholesterol. All that your body needs is sugar. That is the glucose. And having the glucose, your body will now produce what? The body will now produce the sugar. Your body will now produce the cholesterol. So eating too much sugar will lead you to have what? Too much what? The cholesterol that is built up in your body. Number two, if you eat up too much of calorie, that is which is essentially the glucose and other things, it will also lead you to have that diabetes. So listen, number two, you cannot eat fat to get diabetes, but if you eat sugar, you get diabetes. So that is the second problem. Number three, if you eat too much of calorie, most of which is what? Is glucose based. At the end of the day, that can also increase what? That can also increase your weight. So this is what America decided to do. And this is what a lot of people are doing. Whenever they hear about cholesterol, he said, I'm no longer going to eat anything that is fatty. But they end up eating a lot of non-fatty food that is very high in sugars. It is actually worse. I will tell you, the first step towards ideal cardiovascular health in terms of your dieting is to cut down the total amount of calorie that you consume. That is number one. Number two that you should go to is actually your blood. It's actually the carbohydrates. Cutting down the carbohydrates. Then you go to the fat. These principles will help you much better than any other thing. So let's look at it. We can talk about sugars, but today we want to dwell on something here that is very important. The most important thing about sugar, we'll do a discussion on sugar, but once again, we have already done a discussion on sugars, a very extensive discussion on sugars. But let me show you this infographics from American Heart Association that will show you a picture. It says cut out the sugars. And why is that important? You need to cut out the sugars because, listen, you don't need that much. All these that you see over here are other sources of sugar. And look at what our children are doing. Now they are drinking a soda. One bottle of soda gives you so much sugar like you have no idea about. And if you are a woman, you're supposed to consume only 6 teaspoons. And if you're a man, only 9 teaspoons. But if you look at the diagram, what do you see? What you see is a different situation at all. Just 1 teaspoon, one soda. Just 1 soda is like having all your sugars for the week. Because 1 can of soda sometimes can contain almost all the sugar you need to consume. And if you drink 1 per week, you don't need more. Let's look at the other things. They hide in the cakes, cake, cookies. They are all sorts of added sugar. The person says, I'm eating healthy, so I don't eat fatty food. Oh, but remember the cake that you ate. I'm not saying don't eat cake. But I'm not saying it. But these are the facts. Ice cream. All of them. And you know, sometimes the sad thing is that we have got excellent cereals that are around. But these cereals, oh boy, they are packed with so much sugar. So you need to be able to cut out the sugar out of your body. I cannot tell you over and over again. America decided to move away from fat and we embrace sugar. And that is why diabetes is what? Is totally uncontrolled. And that is why obesity is totally uncontrolled. Because we decided that we'll run away from one problem to a greater problem. I want to emphasize this. A healthy cardiovascular diet, the pillar is cut down your calorie content. Number 1, reduce the sugars, especially added sugar. Added sugar, reduce it. Let me tell you, the best drink that you can drink is called water. It doesn't cost a lot. You don't need to buy any specialized water. No. And that will help you. But you know what? I want to talk about, as I've talked about bad sources of sugar, let me talk about good source of sugar. And this is where can you find good source of sugar or good source of carbohydrates? Let's put it this way. Good source of carbohydrates. Because we are eating more sugars than ever before. Let me give you this perspective. Most of the diet products that are out there, you realize that I'll be talking about them in detail. You realize that none of them is high carbohydrate. You realize it. Most of the diets out there, they are either high protein. 90% of all the dieting programs out there is high protein diet. Because proteins are the most difficult to break down. And it is difficult to get the protein converted into cholesterol. And that is why high protein diet. But I will not recommend that for you. I will come into other details. And the next one, you see high fat diet. But no dieting program out there has high glucose. Yet we are running towards high glucose or high carbohydrate diet. And that is why you need to move away from that. Now let us talk about good sources of sugars or carbohydrates that you need to put into your system. The bottom line is what? They are fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables is what you need. And if you look at this picture, it's not too much at all. You know, our pictures here shows you that if you can, you must consume these amounts. You see the carrots over there. I love the lettuce and all the green things out there. I love romaine and I love what is the name? It starts with K. It's not broccoli, but broccoli is also a very good one for you to consume. You see the carrots there. You see whether they are frozen or not. I just want you to be careful. We will do a discussion about frozen, about processed food. But my recommendation is get it fresh. Get it fresh. Get the fresh carrots, get the fresh leaves, get the fresh peas in that form and consume them. And here we've given you what you need per day in terms of servings. And you realize that the more processed they are, the more you need to be careful. Don't drink Don't drink a whole cup of orange juice. That is not good. Drink a quarter of orange juice, because these orange juice sometimes they contain a lot of sugars, and that's why you need to cut it down. So I want to summarize today that the pillars of ideal cardiovascular diet, once again, in an attempt to change what has gone on here, is that whatever attempt we made to run away from cholesterol should not cause us to run towards carbohydrates, because carbohydrates are greater enemies for your cardiovascular health than probably anything, because of what it does in your body, because it will give you the cholesterol, because it starts with glucose and end up giving diabetes and end up giving weight-related challenges for all of us. So to summarize it, I'm going to summarize with just one more slide here, is the fact that in this year 2021, as you celebrate Valentine, it's just one slide, and it's going to show you two things that promote a healthy lifestyle. How do you promote a healthy lifestyle? It's a lifestyle of walking, a lifestyle of fruits and vegetables, and a lifestyle of drinking, staying away from other sugars in terms of the sodas, in terms of too much of bakery and other things that you do not need. And if you can do that, the next thing that I will tell you is this: what is your number? Measure your risk. Measure your risk. I'm not going to give you, I've got other slides, but I'm not going to use them today. I just want to end here. That measure your risk. What are the risks that we're talking about? Go back to the 7 pillars of ideal cardiovascular health. What is your number? And the risk that they are talking about here is the diabetes, high cholesterol, smoking, right? Sedentary lifestyle. But I can tell you this: you can always control most of the, you can almost always, that's what I want to say, you can almost always control some of these things just by adhering to the pillars of ideal cardiovascular health and assessing yourself. So what is your number? That's what I want to conclude. And for each of us that is here, you can go to any website, and we've written ASCVD. You can go to any browser and put in, assess your ASCVD risk. You know, I want to end with this discussion. Not too long ago, I had opportunity to be on a major radio station in the DMV area, and we had opportunity to talk to people who have had a heart attack. And one of the people said this: I was having a jaw problem. My jaw was aching. And my jaw was aching for 1 year. And finally, I ended up going for emergency bypass surgery. You know what? But she said something that was very telling. That in her family, there was members of the family that had had issues, heart attacks and other things. And she had the risk factors, but she kept on turning a blind eye to those risk factors. And when she kept on turning a blind eye to those risk factors, ultimately the risk factors took care of her. So we can all decide to look elsewhere. But looking elsewhere doesn't mean that the problem is gone away. Let me tell you this. Unlike many other problems in life, cardiovascular health is a very manageable health, unlike cancer and other things, in that it takes about 10 to 20 years to have a blockage in your heart. It takes about 10 years for you to have sustained blood pressure to cause heart failure. So as that woman was talking about the fact that she had a sensation in her jaw. Next week, we'll be talking about women and cardiovascular health. And we'll be talking about certain testimonies and other things that I heard from women. This woman had that problem for 1 year and she ignored it. Thank God she's alive because she ended up going for bypass surgery. The problem started in her 20 years ago and she did not. So you can talk about, cancer creeped up on me. Pneumonia creeped up on me. Cardiovascular health, especially blockage in the heart, does not creep up on you. God has given you power to make changes now. And the fact that nothing is happening to you doesn't mean that nothing is happening inside you. And come along with me in the year 2021 through our program so that together with you and me, we can make the appropriate lifestyle changes and other things that I'll be talking about in terms of your medications, which I believe if you do them, they will not be about your health for today, but it will be about your health for today and tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to God's Rhythm. Tune in every Monday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to learn how to protect your heart. God bless you.